Hey, how's it going, guys? My name is Brandon. Welcome to Audio Addiction, where you can find latest album reviews. You can find our band interviews, and you can find a whole bunch of other coverage on the channel. I've been posting 5 days a week, so make sure to check the channel. Check out some of the new material that I've been posting recently. I hope all of you are staying safe out there. I know it's been a very interesting time, so I hope you're all healthy, happy, and enjoying life. To the best way you possibly can. But tonight we're going to be talking about Dance Gavin Dance's newest record, Afterburner. Crazy to think that this band is onto their 9th studio record. I've been a fan of theirs since Downtown Battle Mountain 1, and just to see them progress as a band has been very cool. Very interesting. Obviously, if you know the band, their history has kind of been all over the place, but it's cool that they finally have had a vocalist that has stuck around for more than a couple records. And so, I'm glad that Tillian is really just coming into his own as a vocalist, and just the rest of the band is really elevating and growing and stuff like that. But I'm going to go through the entire album, give you my thoughts and opinions on it, go through some pros and cons, and then finish it out with an overall rating. So the first track is called Prisoner. This one is the second single that was released at the time. They released a music video for it, which is very cool. If you haven't checked that out already, go do so. But within the past, I think 2 records, they've been doing a lot of collaboration work, and they had Sergio do some guitar work on this track, and on another track off the record, Sergio's been in a lot of bands that are related to Blue Swan Records, which is owned by Will Swan. He's been in bands like Idola, Royal Coda, Stola, CMVAR, and I don't think I'm forgetting any. I think that might be it. Nova Charisma. So he's been in a lot of different works throughout, the entirety of their musical career. Joe from A Lot Like Birds, and Royal Coda as well, helped on some composition on this track, which I think is very cool. So just to kind of have those sorts of hands in the pot per se, has been really awesome. But getting back to this track more specifically, I love Will's tapping guitar part. I think the way that it just matches up with Matt's drumming part and the intro is just really well done. I also feel like another thing that was extremely well done is Tillian and John's vocal parts on this track. I think they just do what they do best, which is, Tillian's got a really powerful, clean vocal, and can get really kind of gritty at certain points. And, John just has this really good biting, kind of cutting scream. It's just something about his scream that just, again, reminds me of classic Dance Gavin Dance. I know he's been in a good majority of Dance Gavin Dance's discography, but it's just something about his scream that I don't think I'll ever get really tired with. He just has this originality to him, and especially his lyricism is something that gets me all the time. So I really enjoyed that. But this track in general just has that classic Dance Gavin Dance feel. If you're a fan and you've been a fan for a while, this song should just be right up your alley regardless. It's got some really funky bass, and I really enjoy that. Tim does a great job of kind of just, laying down those grooves. It's those songs that make those hips move and keep those, and the vocals keep you swooning. It's just something about it, that the way that they're able to kind of just concoct different things is just fantastic. A perfect example is at the 1 minute and 16 second mark to around the 1 minute and 46 second mark. Just extremely well done. And I think it's a solid opener track. So we're going to move into track number 2, which is Lyrics Lie. This is another single that was released. I believe this is the 3rd single that was released at the time, and there is some guest vocals slots from Andrew. He does a little bit of vocal parts. Obviously I don't think he's accredited on this song in particular. I'm not entirely sure. I don't have the actual vinyl with me because I think they're getting delayed, but I love this sort of a happier, poppier vibe of this track. Just the way that it has to it. I think it's very well done. I also love the lead guitar part that Will offers in this track. It really transcends not only the intro portion of the song, but throughout the entire song in general. I love the trade-off between John and Tillian in the chorus. I think that's extremely well done, and it shows off them as like frontmen and just their synergy together, I think. And it's just extremely well done. I think over the past couple records, they've really learned to know their styling, and they just keep getting better and better in terms of just kind of like playing off of each other as vocalists, and I think it's very awesome. I also just love how Tillian uses his gritty kind of vocals, and then he's just able to kind of clean it up and show a little bit more restraint in terms of his abilities at singing. And something that really kind of shocked me a little bit was Mark from Veil of Maya does a feature. My guess is around the 2 minutes and 40-second mark to around the 3 minutes and 20-second mark in that bridge portion. It sounds like a lead part from him. I'm not entirely sure, but that would be my guess. If you actually know, drop them in the comments. I'd be curious to see what portion of the song that he featured on. And as well as that, as I mentioned before, Tim just laying down the sick, nasty bass, and he sounds fantastic in the bridge, which just happens to be one of my favorite portions of the track. So we're going to move into track number 3, which is Calentamiento Global. I am 99% sure I fucked that up at some point. So I'm sorry to all the Spanish viewers watching this that I can clearly not speak Spanish, so I'm sorry for that. But this one, first off, just amazed me. I was very surprised at how well they were kind of able to infuse Latin music into kind of this funkierness of DGD, and I think the thing that just surprised me the most is how well that like Latin fusion sort of sound works, and I love it. I think it works out really well. The funky riffs just play really well with the kind of like salsa-esque kind of like vibes. And also Tillian singing in Spanish is pretty awesome. I was really thrown by that when I first listened to it, and I was just like, oh, okay, he's just gonna do a line in Spanish. That's really cool. But then you listen to the whole song and he actually does the whole song in Spanish. I think that's really solid. Obviously, it would have been very cool if John did some Spanish, but he didn't do Spanish, just low key he didn't. But his screamings were really on point as well. And you know, I had one of my friends, Ram, comment on this song, and he said this feels kind of like a Shakira-esque song, and I can kind of hear it low key. I didn't want to say anything, but I just feel like for me it does have that. I think any song that is more Latin flared, I feel like a lot of people assimilate that with a Shakira song, which is not good or bad, I guess, but I just think it's funny. But the chorus is probably my favorite part. It is muy caliente, and I know I will not butcher that at least. So that's very cool. But getting back to the song, really enjoyed the chorus a lot, and easily probably one of my favorite DGD songs in a hot minute. I feel like the track is super diverse, and brings a new like version of DGD to this track, and I think it is just really well done, well executed, and the way that the funk and the Spanish vibes were able to match up, super fantastic. Definitely one you should check out if you haven't already. So we're going to move into track number 4, which is 3 Wishes. This is the most current single, I believe. And I really enjoyed this one. I tried not to listen to any of the singles excluding Strawberry's Wake, and this one I loved right off the bat. The hooks were fantastic, and I think it's what really makes these tracks really fantastic. Tillian has a fantastic. I kept saying fantastic. I said fantastic like 3 times. But Tillian just has a way about him that just the way that he concocts melodies is awesome. Like it's just something to be just proud of, and I think that just because he's had so many different projects, whether it be his solo work, he's had like, you know, older projects like Tides of Man, the way that he has these melodies like kind of locked and loaded, I think is really impressive. They're memorable melodies, and a lot of the harmonies really fit super well too. I will say one thing that really stuck out to me a lot, which was actually John saying multiple stab wounds. I feel like I will be saying that. It will be completely taken out of context, and it's just not a good look. I definitely don't think it's a good look. Am I still approving of it? Absolutely. Do you think it's a good look? No, I don't think it's a good look. But love this track regardless. It has that sort of earworm quality to it, which is never a bad thing. But it also has that kind of classic DGD quality to it as well. Really well executed track. If you're looking for one of those, much like Prisoner, one of those classic kind of DGD vibe tracks, this is the one for you. So we're going to move into track number 5, which is One in a Million. This one has more of a poppier feel as well. I think that a lot of the newer DGD stuff has been influenced by Tillian's side project, which is his solo work, and I think it's really kind of bled into his new music, which is very cool, or new DGD music to be more accurate. But really enjoyed this track a lot. I think the chorus is probably my favorite part. It has that, again, earworm quality to it. 2 back-to-back tracks that have this really like memorable hook, this really memorable melody, and I think it's really well executed. The guitar work by Will is awesome in this track. I think is some of my favorite off the record. And the layered on vocals was really well done too. I think that some of the ways that they are able to kind of layer the vocals in this track really make a certain portion of the song, and for them to really arrange different things, and again, for them going back to Chris Crummett for I don't know how many records they've been doing it with Chris now at this point, but I think he really knows what their sound is at this point in time, and he's able to kind of just separate everything. Like guitars sound like, you can clearly distinct out guitar parts, you can clearly distinct out bass parts, you can clearly distinct, drums, vocals, all that sort of stuff, but it doesn't feel so like separated where you're like, oh my god, like where's the song going? It all feels like collective, but also at the same time it has this kind of like openness to it. I don't know if I did a really good job of explaining it, but I feel like for me, the way that it was mixed was really well done, and again, that's courtesy of Chris Crummett, one of my favorite producers. But this one, I think melody wise it's super well done, and I think that just this song in general is well executed. Like if you're looking for more of a poppier hit, this one is the one for you. So we're gonna move into track number 6, which is Parody Catharsis. Zach from Strawberry Girls actually helped do a few riffs off this track, which you can really hear his influence as well, and I think it is also a nice little callback to when Will and Zach worked together in DGD together on one of my favorite records, Happiness. I don't know if he left prior to that, but I really enjoyed that guitar work, and also the self-titled, which I knew he was for a fact in the self-titled record. But one other cool thing that again harkens back to old, which would be Will's rapping. He brought back the rapping. I don't remember if he did any rapping off of Artificial Selection or Mothership, but it was a nice little callback to older DGD records, which I think is always well done, and I think they do a great job of kind of, doing fan service in that regard. The chorus is really beautiful. I love the melody in this track, and I think it meshes the chaotic nature of what I know from DGD, but also the melodic side in just a really well executed way. One part that I think offers an extreme sort of contrast with this sort of dissonance and melodic nature of the song, which would be at the 3 minutes and 13 second mark to the end of the song. I think that was really well done too. And again, this one was one of the ones that I feel like a lot of people are going to sleep on, but it's definitely one of the better tracks off this record. So we're gonna move into track number 7, which is Strawberry's Wake. This is the first single that they released, and I really love the etherealness of this track. I think it is further benefited by Tillian's really great clean vocals, and that he wasn't going to go gritty with it. He really kind of has that real like kind of pristine, beautiful, clean voice, and it really cuts through a track like this, especially when it's just him and guitar. I think it's just chef's kiss, baby. Love it. But probably my favorite part of this song in particular is Tim's bass lines. I think he did a fantastic job on this one. You can really hear it out clearly, and as well as that, I think the way that he's been able to play off of a lot of Will's riffing going on shows his ability as a bass player to kind of continue the melody, but also at the same time continue the song in what makes sense. So it's not like he's going real out of bounds for what he's doing, but also at the same time, if he is, it's tastefully done and it's not like too much. So really appreciate that, and I just love the synergy between them. I think they do a great job of kind of, again, with Tim and Matt being kind of the low end, they're able to hold it down there, and Will is just able to have his day with whatever he does. So, in the track, obviously he plays guitar, but really well done. Probably another favorite portion of this song in particular is the chorus. I love it. I think it's phenomenal, and definitely one of the tracks that got me right off the bat. I knew I was going to like this one, and I was probably going to like a majority of the record, but at the current time, really enjoyed this one a lot. So we're gonna move into track number 8, which is Born to Fail. This one has more of a darker undertone to it, which I think for them is a little bit of a different change from the normal for what DGD does. So I thought that was very cool. I love the menacing vibe of this track. I think at portions of the song, it definitely reminds me a lot of like Secret Band material, which again features members of DGD and also Secret Band's guitar player. He did some of the guitar parts off this record, so I thought it was a new kind of like combination of the two things. The chorus almost has a sort of Tides of Man feel to it, again harkening back to Tillian's old days in his old band. I wouldn't say it's like 100% that, but that was like one of the things that was coming up in my head when I was listening to this track. So really enjoyed this one. Also, Sergio did some guitar parts on this track as well. Really well done, a little bit heavier, so if you're into heavier DGD stuff, this might be the track for you. So we're going to move into track number 9, which is Parallels. Really dig the cool kind of fuzzed out guitar riff from Will. Again, harkening back to self-titled days. I would also say maybe like Happiness. I'd also say maybe like Downtown Mountain Battle 2 kind of, because I know they went a little bit more interesting with that. So I think that they kind of brought a little bit of old school flair to it. It also has that real kind of funky feel that you expect from this band at this point. And the tones on this track, thick, my guy. Love the tone on this track. I think it really puts the song in that mood, and I appreciate that a lot. I also think that this track is a little bit more punchier than some of the previous ones. Again, we're getting into this section of mostly heavier tracks from DGD so far. So it's interesting to see them jump into newer territory. Not to say that they were not ever heavy, but I don't think that they would be this heavy. If you were asking me that's what I would think. But also another portion of the track that I liked is that they just experimented. I don't think they really didn't have like I guess they had a game plan, if that makes sense, but also at the same time, like the track feels very like fluid, and it has just kind of this heavier undertone to it, which is further stated by like a breakdown-esque part at around the 2 minutes and 45-second mark to the end of the track. So definitely one if you're a fan of heavier DGD and you like John-centric tracks, then this might be the one for you. So we're going to move into track number 10, which is Night Sway. Again, keeping with the energy of the previous song, but also just keeping with the energy of the track. I think that this one just blows the roof off in the verses portion of the track. And this song isn't afraid to let you know what's up, gets right into it, no questions asked, and really just a very heavy track, which I think is very cool. As I said, very twice. And John rips it in this track. I think he really kind of sets the tone for a track and kind of sets you in your right place. I think instrumentally, it is also further backed up, being kind of a little bit more heavier, a little bit more dissonant. I think it plays off of that sort of vibe as well. And I just appreciate the chaotic nature of this track. I think, again, borrowing a lot from kind of like Secret Band, which again is mostly DGG, so it's not really that big of a deal. But if you're into more of the heavier versions of tracks off this record so far, then I would say the next, basically after track number 8 to track number 11, I think are the heaviest tracks that I think I've heard them make, but also the heaviest tracks off this record. So speaking of track number 11, which is Say Hi, this one again has a Secret Band feel to it. I know I keep mentioning it to you guys, but I feel like if you haven't checked out Secret Band and you checked out this song, then you'd have a pretty good idea of what Secret Band is within a stretch of the imagination. But I love the dissonant undertones of this track. I think it brings off, again, a lot of the darker tonalities of this band. And for them to tap into something like that, I think it's very interesting. I think it obviously kind of plays back to the album art, which is literally like, on fire. You got like bulls, they're all partying and shit. So, and there's a bunch of fire. So, I think for me, it's playing off those sorts of heavier vibes, those sort of darker undertones that they don't really particularly touch. But I like when they do it because it's so refreshing. I also feel like, again, John is really holding it down, but probably my favorite portion of the track in general is Matt Mingus. He does a fantastic job on the drumming on Say Hi. He's got some really great kind of like fills, some really great rhythm in this track, and it being kind of on the heavier side, it was cool to hear him just kind of rip it with a hard track. And Angry as all hell track, but one you should go give a listen to. So we're going to move into track number 12, which is Nothing Shameful. And this one features Andrew Wells of Idola, a good friend of the channel. Shoutouts to Andrew. But this one was a very well put together track. I think it starts off really great with a burst of energy from Tillian and his vocal prowess. I think that, the vocals in this track are just really well done, but I think the person that takes the cake for me in this track is absolutely Andrew. And his vocal part starts at around the 1 minute and 45 second mark to around the 2 minutes and 50 second mark. And he just runs it. I honestly feel like he is the sole reason why I love this track. His runs, his range, his ability to kind of go high, his range to the way that he has this sort of warmthness and this warmth quality to his vocals, I think is really well put together, and it is obviously showed off and utilized greatly in a track like this. I've been saying it for years. I think Idola has been always an underrated band in the swancore and post-hardcore scene. So if you haven't checked out Idola, please go do it. But I think Andrew just slayed it. I really, honestly and truly, that is the only word that I could use to describe it, because it is that phenomenal. So go give this one a listen if you haven't already. So we're going to move into the last track number 13, which is Into the Sunset. And this features another good friend of the channel, Bill Murray, which is very cool. And it was cool to have him on a track just because, again, Tillian featured on one of his tracks, which is a parody. Well, the title of the song is a parody to one of their songs. And I know that they've wanted to tour together, and they might have the chance to tour together. I'm not entirely sure just because of what's going on. But getting back to the track, which is what you guys are all here for, I really like this track a lot. I think Tillian does a great job of just utilizing his range as a vocalist, and he just gets he just explodes in this track, and it's fantastic. Showing off the depth of his skill as a vocalist, I think, is really incredible. It starts off like really melancholy, but I think towards the end, Tillian does a great job of, really bringing in that energy. But one of my other favorite portions of the track is when Bill Murray comes in, which is around the 1 minute and 3 second mark to around the 1 minute and 30 second mark. And the one thing that I think really sold me on his guest feature was that he put his own stamp, his own sound onto a DGD track, which is really hard to do, I think, as a vocalist or just as somebody who guests on a DGD record. So for him to kind of really put his stamp of approval, put his Bill Murray vibes on it, I think is really well done. And that same sort of beat, trap beat, hip hop sort of beat, is further played again later in the track at around the 2 minutes and 40-second mark to around the 3 minute mark, because Will does another rapping part, which again harkens back to older material, which I think is really incredibly done. But overall, I think this is a really fantastic track. I think it shows off the band's skill and ability to experiment, but as well as that, I think it shows off a lot of the reasons why all of these tracks collectively are really well put together, and really feel like one track was a dud over the other. It's just that they were all really good, but there were certain tracks that I felt like were like elevated a little bit higher. So some pros and cons I have about the record. I think pro, if you're about the diversity, if you're about like the change of different things that they've been able to kind of do over the years, then you're really sold on that. Tillian sounds fantastic. I think he's been sounding the best he's sounded in a while, which is very cool. John sounds fantastic. He actually showed off a decent amount of his vocal skill, and if you know John, like, I feel like his vocal range isn't like incredible, but I think the way that the thing that he has over other artists is that he has tonality. It's something about his tone that even if I don't know 100% what DGD song it is, I know it's at least a DGD song because of his scream. So I really enjoyed that. The features, both Andrew and Bill Murray, I think did a fantastic job. The people that helped on some of the riff writing, whether it be Zach from Strawberry Girls, Joe from Royal Coda, Sergio from Royal Coda, Idola, Andrew from Idola and Dance Gavin Dance now, Mark from Veil of Maya, just all these people that help them kind of work together. Chris, I think, they really know what they are going to get out of DGD. And I think on a lot of these tracks, they did a fantastic job. I really don't have any cons about it. I think they did a really bang up job. And it's one record that I was really surprised about and really elated to find out about how good it was. I really enjoyed Strawberry's Wake, but I was as per any record, I'm a little bit unsure until I listened to more of it. So I think this album really came into its own, and I'm super stoked that I got to review it. So my overall rating for Dance Gavin Dance is Afterburner. I'm going to be giving it a 9.7 out of 10. As you know, it's going to be on the albums of the year list. That's without a doubt. I think they did a really great job of kind of providing fan service for old bands. Whether it be, they started out with Downtown Mountain Battle 1, or they came in like the most current record, which is Artificial Selection. I think there's everything and all the things in between. So if you're a fan of the band and you've been a fan of the band, I think if you've been a fan of the band, there's things that you can find out about this record that you haven't heard yet. And if you're a brand new fan, then this is a great opportunity to kind of delve into DGD. So let me know in the comments what you think about this record. If you agree with me, if you disagree. I know this is a bit of a longer review, but I feel like I had to do the justice to Bill Murray, Andrew, and just DGD in general. They've been kind of a staple in this scene over the past, I don't know how many years they've been a band, but it's just really cool to see them always experimenting, always taking chances, always reinventing themselves as a band, and I feel like this album is no different. So like I said, if you enjoyed this review, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. It means the absolute world to me if you could do that. A lot of you are at home and you're having a hard time, so I hope that you guys will all find something fun. Hopefully you'll have this record to take your mind off of things that have been going on, and I hope all of you are staying safe out there. Like I said, my name is Brandon. We hope you got your fix, and we'll be talking with you soon. Peace.